Hey guys, this is God of Politics. Welcome back to a brand new video, but before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Those are both linked down in the description. But in today's video, I'm going to be doing the opposite of the video that I did 2 days ago, and in today's video, I'll be doing the best case scenario for Democrats in the Senate. I want to be fair to both sides when I do these kinds of videos, so I did do the best case scenario for Republicans. They ended up getting 54 seats in the Senate, flipping New Hampshire, as well as the state of Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia, giving them 54 seats. But what is the best case scenario for the Democrats? Can they get a big enough majority that will help them going into the 2024 elections and even further and beyond that? So I will be doing, of course, the safe states to start off first in this scenario, which includes Idaho, North Dakota, South Dakota, Utah, Alaska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, as well as Alabama, South Carolina, Indiana, Kentucky, and that is going to be all the safe states. Republicans going up to 43 seats, and then for the Democrats, they would win California, Oregon, Washington, as well as Colorado. This is a change from the last video. Colorado, Michael Bennet in the scenario would win by over 10 percentage points, a similar margin of victory to what Joe Biden got. Hawaii, Illinois, New York, Vermont, Connecticut, Maryland, and of course the Georgia seat where Jon Ossoff is, which would get the Democrats already up to 46 seats just based off of the safe states. And this would be quite a big cushion for them, being able to win states that historically have not been much in their favor. Colorado was a state that was won by George W. Bush, flipped to Obama in 2008, and it's been increasingly Democrat ever since then. Joe Biden winning the state by 13 percentage points. Michael Bennet would probably get a similar result to that. And now getting to the likely margin states, the first state for the Republicans is the state of Missouri. Now, many might be surprised that I'm putting Missouri as likely, but I just think that in this scenario, Roy Blunt might win by, under 10 percentage points. If you go back to 2016, he won by around 3 percentage points against Jason Kander, who was a good candidate for the Democrats. It's going to be hard to replicate that, but maybe if he runs again, he could make it a likely margin. Maybe if Democrats run a good candidate overall, and this is a good night for them, they could make it a likely margin as well. But I just think that in this scenario, it's going to be a bit of a closer race. Same thing with Iowa. I hesitate to put this at a lean margin because even if Chuck Grassley retires, Republicans do have a lot of good candidates they could run in Iowa, whereas Democrats only have a couple of candidates, like maybe Rob Sand, maybe Cindy Axne runs. Maybe they could get another candidate, but it's really going to be difficult to win this Iowa Senate race. And given the underperformance of people like Teresa Greenfield in the 2020 elections, I don't think it's going to be possible to win this race. Florida is also a state that I put in the likely margin. This is where you have Marco Rubio here, who's really not going to lose. He won by 6 percentage points in 2016, running 5 points ahead of Donald Trump. He can get a good result of Miami-Dade County as well as doing well in the rural areas, and I don't think he's going to have any trouble winning re-election, and this scenario winning by a likely margin. And then for the Democrats, the states that they would win by a likely margin, let's see if there actually are any. Actually, there are no states that they would win by a likely margin in this scenario. But getting to the lean margin states, Democrats, or Republicans, I should say, would win Ohio in this scenario by a lean margin. Democrats could get a good candidate, someone like Tim Ryan, to run. Maybe he could make it a little bit closer, but really, they're not going to win a state like Ohio anymore. And I even hesitate to put this at a lean margin, to be honest. Really, Tim Ryan doesn't have much of a chance to win at all. But just for the sake of this, I'm going to be putting it at a lean margin. And then the lean margin states for the Democrats first is the state of Nevada. Now, Nevada is really a stubborn state for the Democrats because even in a good year, it's going to be hard to win a state like Nevada by more than 5 percentage points, which is what I consider a likely margin. And Catherine Cortez Masto, even though she's a good candidate, I think that even in this scenario, she'd probably only win by about 4 to 5 percentage points. She's going to have to do well with white suburbanites in Las Vegas as well as with Latino voters, which I think she can do. But I just think that in this scenario, she'd win by around a lean margin. Same thing in Arizona. I think Mark Kelly would also win by around a lean margin, probably by around 3 to 4 percentage points. The Arizona Republican Party really is not in a good position right now, and Mark Kelly is a good candidate himself. And so I do think that that will aid him in getting a good victory for himself. I think he will be able to do well with Hispanic voters as well as doing well with more white suburbanites, similar to a result in Nevada. And I think that will aid him in his victory. I expect him to win regardless, but I think in this scenario he'd win by around a lean margin. Same thing with Raphael Warnock. The demographic changes in Georgia really are helping the Democrats, plus the turnout operation that Stacey Abrams has is really helping Democrats overall. Democrats have improved in the state of Georgia in every election since 2012, and I expect that to maybe not continue in this election. I don't know if Warnock would win by more than 2 percentage points, but but it's certainly possible if Democrats do have a good year, and I do think that will help them overall, because Warnock is, said to be a bad candidate by many people, but he did win by quite a significant margin in 2021 in the runoff. And I think that with a good national environment, he could replicate that result in 2022. New Hampshire is another state that I will be putting at a lean margin for the Democrats. Even if Chris Sununu runs, it's not a given that he will win. There have been a couple of polls saying that Maggie Hassan is not the most popular candidate and is not the best in the best position to win re-election. But New Hampshire is still a state that Joe Biden won quite convincingly. It is still representative of the fact that state politics are different from national politics, and a 30-point win for Chris Sununu is not going to equal a 30-point win at the Senate race. So even if it's a good scenario for Democrats, they can win the state by a lean margin. Right now, overall, my rating would be about tilt to lean R, but that doesn't mean Democrats can't win this race by quite a significant margin. There's also, of course, the chance that Chris Sununu just doesn't run at all, which would make this race a lot easier for Democrats. But I'm going to be working upon the assumption that he does run, but again, a victory is not guaranteed for him, and we're very far out from that result to begin with. So the final lead margin in state for the Democrats are already up to 50 seats, which would continue their control of the Senate. But Pennsylvania, I also believe, could go by a lead margin. Now, this is, of course, dependent on a lot of things. Democrats are going to have to get a good result in the suburbs, do a little bit better with white working class voters, which I think John Fetterman can do, and also count on lower turnout amongst white working class voters, because, John Fetterman can't improve with those voters, so he's not going to win those voters. So having lower turnout amongst those groups like you had in 2018 is going to help Democrats regardless. So I do think that, the Republican Party is really in a similar position to what the position they're in Georgia and Arizona is that, you don't want to turn off the moderate suburban voters, but you also want to get the base to turn out. And that's a problem that Republicans are going to have in Pennsylvania. And I don't think that it's going to be easy for them to get a victory. So in this scenario, I'm going to put it at a lean Democratic state. But really, of course, this race truly is a toss-up. But in this scenario, they would win it by lean margins. The Democrats are already at 51 seats here. And, the tilt margin states, I think Wisconsin and North Carolina would both go to Democrats in this scenario. And before we say, you're biased or whatever, I gave Republicans 54 seats in their best case scenario. I'm only giving Democrats 53 seats in this scenario. But looking at Wisconsin, first of all, Ron Johnson is a candidate who is quite far to the right. He's been opposed to stimulus checks. He's been opposed to stimulus in general. He is a very big right-wing person in the Republican Party. He's a staunch defender of President Trump, who lost the state. And I think that with the right Democratic candidate, someone like Ron Kine, maybe someone like Mark Buchanan, who even said he's not going to run, but if Democrats can get a good candidate, they can certainly beat Ron Johnson. I know it was an upset that Ron Johnson won in 2016 to many, but I do think that, Democrats still have an opportunity to beat him come 2022. And then finally, the state of North Carolina, this is certainly going to be the hardest state to flip, just due to the fact that this is a state that Trump won in 2016, but Democrats do have an opportunity to win. They need to get outreach to black voters, similar to what Stacey Abrams did in Georgia. And even though the black share of the electorate is lower in North Carolina, you also do have better margins amongst white, non-college educated voters in these rural areas where Democrats have to maintain those margins. North Georgia, which is very Republican, they don't really have an equivalent to that in North Carolina, at least not to a large extent. That's the largest netting of votes for the Republican Party. So Democrats are going to have to stop those trends in the rural areas while getting high margins amongst black voters and suburban voters. They really have to get the best of all the worlds here, and they have to get a good candidate as well. Of course, someone like Roy Cooper would probably win, but it's going to be quite difficult to win. I doubt he's going to run, so you're going to have to get another candidate, which is going to be quite difficult to win. But I think that if everything lines perfectly, Democrats could get that seat and overall get 53 seats, meaning that Democrats would probably maintain the Senate majority in 2024, which is going to be a tough year for them because they will most likely lose Montana, Ohio, and West Virginia. That would knock them down to 50 seats in this election. If they can maintain all of their other seats, Democratic incumbents in these states are quite good. Sinema, Baldwin, Stabenow, Casey, those are good candidates. And I do think that Democrats, if they could get this result, would be in quite a good position overall. It would mean they have a good midterm overall. They could still lose the House in this scenario. They could get a D+3 electorate and still lose the House. But overall, this would be a good map for Democrats. Is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? No. I don't think this map is likely at all, but it is certainly still a possibility. So thank you all for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Those are both linked down in the description. But again, guys, thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you guys later.